Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for the Chelsea 2020-2021 season player ratings live stream. As you can see, we're already joined on screen by, of course, Mr. CFC Pies, my partner in crime for all these player rating live streams. We're also joined by Monster and Lewis. They're just, you basically can't see them yet. I can see them. Monster says he's here. I'm not sure whether he'll be able to use his camera, so you need to tell me that in a private chat, please. He's outside, so hopefully his microphone won't be too messed up. Maybe he'll turn on his camera later. I don't know. We'll see. And Lewis as well, just put on your camera when you're ready so I can add you. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, if you're watching, appreciate all of you. And subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the like button. Still bloody champions of Europe. Still hasn't sunk in. We'll discuss it all. Let me just add Monster. Let's see how that's going to go. Monster, how you doing? Let me know if I can hear you.
No, I'm in a quiet place, so my mic should be good. Is it good?
Okay. Brilliant. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. How you doing, man?
Right. I'm good, man. I'm good. Like champions of Europe, innit? How can we not be great? Do you get what I mean? How can we not be?
Honestly, I could not agree more. And Lewis, first of all, Lewis, big shout out to you. I know you just woke up. Appreciate it a lot to jump on last second. First shout out, I have to say this at the start because people might watch this later on. Check out Lewis's vlog of the final. The link is in the description. Check out his matchday vlog. Help make it bang. Drop a like, comment, do all the things. Make it bang. Anyway, Lewis, how you feeling, bro? Except tired.
Nothing bad than waking up to Monster saying we're champions of Europe. Love hearing it. That will never get old on my life. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Champions of Europe still, like. That's just it, because I'm running with this for the whole year. We're going to keep talking about it. I don't care what happens until we get eliminated. We're rubbing it in everyone's face, and we're going to say it until it's boring as hell. But it ain't boring as hell for us. That's why we're going to keep telling people. So, yeah, champions of Europe, let's keep running with it.
Oh, exactly. I could not agree more. I'm in a group chat with a few people, and I just keep sending random things in.
Rival group chat.
Well, like just friends, but not really football friends. So like they support different clubs, but we're like not necessarily friends based around football. And half of the guys have already said, Loz, like we know you've won it. Like it's enough now. It's over. And I'm like, bro, it's not over until next year when someone else wins.
It's never enough. It's never enough.
It's exactly. It's never ever over. Obviously, to Pies and Lewis, I have spoken to since the final. But Monster, for you, talking to you, it's the first time since then. You want to just, I don't know, run me through the feelings and then how was Saturday for you?
It's a bit of it's weird for me because I'm not gonna lie. This one I felt this one more than I felt 2012. The reason being with 2012 because I've been through so much heartache over a very long period of time in terms of Chelsea. I started supporting Chelsea in '97 when Ruud Gullit was playing a manager in it. So and during that, before we won it in 2012, and after losing to Man United in the final, losing to Liverpool so many times in the semi-final, losing to Monaco in 2004, I just never thought we would win it. I always had it in the back of my mind. I never thought Chelsea would win it. So when we won it in 2012, it was more of a sigh of relief. If anything, it was just that relief that finally we've won it. And then come 9 years later, we've won it again. It's just like, imagine me thinking we're never going to win this Champions League. We've only gone and won it twice. So it was great to see this young crop. Like in our Champions League squad, 7 players from the academy, or maybe 8, got to play in the Champions League this season. 3 or 2 of them being very integral in winning it, in Christensen, Mason Mount, and Reece James. So yeah. It's been great for Chelsea. It's history. It's history. That's history right there. We're literally one of, the biggest club in the country, Man United, or one of them. And I feel like we're going to get there. This is just the beginning with this young crop of players. I've been telling people, listen, in 3 to 5 years' time, Chelsea will win another Champions League. I put money on it. This is how good these guys are. So I'm just happy we won, and we shut up a lot of people.
Oh, we shut up a lot of people, and I agree with you. Actually, it feels a bit different. Like I was supporting Chelsea, but it was a different time to support from abroad. Like it wasn't as accessible, at least from where I was. So it wasn't really as easy to like watch every game and be as involved. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I spent like the 6 months leading up to it, basically, I was living in Ireland, so I kind of had UK broadcast. So that's when I kind of started to be able to watch pretty much all of the games, except obviously the Saturday kickoffs. But I feel like live streaming wasn't as much of a thing, or they weren't as good, so it wasn't as easy to just find them all the time. So it was, for me, being abroad, it was more difficult to be equally as invested. And obviously, as it's grown over the last few years, it's just like you said, obviously with the youth players coming through as well. And for me, almost differently to you, for you, it was like, oh, relief. Okay, we were, maybe we're never going to win it, but we did. But for me, it was like the players back then were so good. Not that I expected them to win it, but it's like it made sense that at some point, this group of players that we had back then, even though they were at the tail end of their career, some of them, and the biggest ones of them, it made sense that we were going to win it eventually. Obviously, we should have done way earlier, but it made sense that we were going to win it at some point. But now, it just didn't make any sense. Like, none of us expected this. Like, not this season, at least. Like, no one can tell me that at the start of the season you thought we were going to win the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe after we beat Atletico,
I actually thought we were going to win the Prem, because that's what I was advocating for at the time, for us to win the Prem. Little did I know we were going to go on to win. To me, the Prem is bigger than the Champions League. The Champions League's bigger than the Prem. So little did I know we were going to go on to win the Champions League. And, this is one thing as well, is Drogba and these guys. Lampard waited how many years? About, I think, 11 years or 10 years.
Yeah, joined in 2001.
11 years. For his Champions League, obviously Terry was there from the academy, so it's different. Drogba waited 9 years. These guys they tried and tried and tried over a very long period of time. Meanwhile, these young guys we got, they waited only about a year or 2 years to win theirs. So kudos to them. They've made history, way quicker than the previous generation of our players.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I want to pose a question to all of you guys before we get into the actual player ratings, because I've thought about this the other night. Is this goal by Kai Havertz the single biggest goal in Chelsea's history? Because obviously Drogba's header in 2012, but that was only the equalizer, right? So we still needed to win penalties after that and survive extra time after that, if that makes sense. And, check it to save the penalty. So it was only the equalizer. Kai Havertz was the actual winner. Obviously, you could make a case for the goal that obviously got us top 4 in 2002, so that 2003. So Roman actually bought us, sure.
Yeah.
But if you take that out in terms of single individual biggest goal, is Kai's bigger than any other goal we've ever scored? Like, obviously the penalty, but that's not. I know it's a goal, but it's a penalty shoot, so it's kind of different. Obviously, the pen is probably the biggest because the first ever trophy and is a bit different. But in terms of actual game goal, if that makes sense. And let me go with you first, Pies. Is this the biggest ever goal scored for Chelsea Football
Club? I think the only other one I was going to say was the one you said, like the 2003 one or 2002, whenever it was.
Jasper Gronkier, yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise Roman wouldn't have bought it and we would never be here. So I think I'd probably say that. But after that, I'd put Havertz up there for sure. Yeah, I mean, won us the Champions League, so. Yeah, and I agree with Monsters, to be fair, like 3 to 5 years, maybe even. The thing is with Champions League, you just never know. Like, that's why we have to enjoy it so much because, like, especially nowadays with the way they're drawing the teams and, like, they do, like, the quarters and then the semis and stuff, you almost, like, know your route. So if they do that again, like, for the next few years, we'll know our route. So it's, like, it's as much on the draw as it is, anything else. So, yeah, I mean, you can get a hard draw and still do what we did like us, or you could even get an easier draw on paper. So Champions League is just so special because you never know what you're going to get, and any route you get is going to be special anyway because you're going to have to play big teams. So yeah, I have no doubt we can do it again. Just for sure. Like, this is the thing as well. Like what Mount was saying was, like, it's special now because we've got the young group of players. They're only getting started, but they know what it feels like to win now. They want it more. They're more hungry. So the next few years, like Mount, Reece James, probably the two that are probably going to stay in the starting 11. Like, that's 2 players there right there already out of 11 that are just going to give that extra 20% when they're in a final or something. So hopefully we can get there again, man, because I believe we can do it again for sure.
Hopefully we do. I actually have a good comment here about Emil before I put it to you, Lewis, saying Drogba's goal was bigger because if he doesn't score, we don't win because obviously it was so late in the game. If Kai doesn't score, we still have a good chance to win. And that's a fair point, in all honesty. So maybe you kind of made my whole argument of his goal being the biggest a little bit redundant. I think it's a fair argument. But Lewis, how do you see it? Is Kai's goal the biggest goal ever? And by the way, I love the flag in your background.
Much appreciated, bro. What biggest goal in our history?
Yeah, because Drogba was only an equalizer. Kai Havertz won us the Champions League with his single individual open play goal.
Nah, I don't think I could say that. I think Jesper Kronka and Didier Drogba has already been said, but I feel both of them carry way more importance. I think the second Champions League win was definitely a lot more dominant than the first one was, which is probably why we enjoyed it so much more. But 2012 was just different, and just the fact of the importance of it, and also the fact that it was our first as well. I wouldn't say Kai Havertz's goal is definitely up there with the most important goals in our history, but it's not really up there with the final few, in my opinion. If that's what we're getting. If we want to go further as well, could say the winner in the 1970 FA Cup replay goes in there as well. Frank Lampard's first at Bolton. Gianfranco Zola in the Cup Winners' Cup against Real Madrid.
As well.
Just off the top of my head, you gotta allow me. I've just woken up.
I feel like the Lampard one at Bolton is like even if we don't win that game, we win the league. Do you know what I mean?
We do, but
it was our first. It was our first in a very
no. I get that, but a league season is not won by one goal. If that makes sense, a Champions League kind of is.
But then that's why I'd still say Drogba's equaliser was just that much more important.
Absolutely.
Now, I understand the question, and this is a good debate regardless, but I think Kai Havertz's goal is just a bit lower than all the other ones that we've mentioned. But it still doesn't take away from the importance of it.
No, 100%. 100%. And I suppose with that, especially because Monster does need to head off at 4, even though Pice and Lewis and myself will probably have to take this a bit longer to get through the entire squad. But let's start with the season player ratings. I'm going to add the players as we go along, if that makes sense. And we start with one of the biggest ratings probably that we're going to have. I'm going to have to go with initials because otherwise there's no chance we're going to fit all of these guys in. But I'm going to start with Edouard Mendy in goal. Obviously, I'm not going to give Caballero a rating because barely played, right? But Kepa will get one. But Edouard Mendy, and there's people have made the case that not necessarily because they don't rate Mount, but that Mendy does deserve a strong shout for player of the season, and he does. And his rating, like a debut season, a debut Champions League season, a debut Premier League season, like, in my opinion, you're looking at a 10. You're not far off a 10 at the maximum. How do you see that, Monster? Let me go with you first.
To me, I think... sorry, I'm getting an echo from somewhere. Lewis.
It's fine for me.
Mendy, to me, he should be player of the season. Obviously, you can say Mount as well. But what people are not noticing is when you're talking about someone who's been... Because every player's had inconsistencies in their season. Mount has been inconsistent at times, especially towards the end of the season. At first, Thiago Silva was my player of the year, but because he got injured and didn't play for a period of time, to me, he becomes ineligible. So then you got Mendy, who's been consistent throughout the season. You could say he had one bad game where he made a mistake, and it wasn't even a terrible game. The game against Everton, where he gave away the penalty, the game we lost. Apart from that, can someone name me a game where Mendy's been bad? I can't name one. Do you get what I mean? Even the ones we've lost, he hasn't been bad. It's been our defense in front of us and things like that. And the reason why he probably didn't get player of the season is we know why. It's because goalkeepers and defenders don't normally get players of the season. They always give it to the attackers because they score goals.
It's also difficult for goalkeepers, really. Like myself and Pies, especially because we obviously do these player ratings super regularly. It's so difficult to rate goalies in comparison to outfield players because how do you rate a goalie when and let's be honest, there's been a lot of games since Tuchel has come in where Mendy didn't have to do anything. And not that that does anything against him, but it's like a goalkeeper has almost less of a broader like job description than a midfielder like Mason Mount, if that makes sense.
But if you ask me, whenever you got to remember, like you said, I can't remember who I was listening to. It was a goalkeeper. I think it was Tim Howard or something. I can't remember. And they were saying at times when you're a goalkeeper, you have nothing to do in a game. It gets very boring and very easy for you to lose concentration. Now with Mendy, that hasn't happened. You remember the Real Madrid game? He saved us. You know, Benzema's shots, the header. This guy was on point. He was there to drag us out the mud when Real Madrid got their only chances in the game. So if you ask me, he deserves the Player of the Year. Obviously, you can give it to Mount, and I understand them giving it to Mount. He's an attacker, and he has been quite consistent as well. But even during that patch where a lot of players during that patch where a lot of players weren't playing well, Mount was the one playing well. Well, Mount wasn't the only one playing well. Mendy was actually playing well too, but no one gives him that recognition in it. So I think he's about a 9.5.
I think a 9.5 is fair, and it's weird because I think I would give Mendy, in terms of rating, I think I might give him actually a higher rating than Mount, but still Mount is my player of the season, if that makes sense. Yeah. I know that sounds silly, but in terms of how close to maximum best was Mendy was probably closer to maximum best than Mount, but still in terms of, I don't know, overall how things went through the season, I think, you know, Mount might still have been more important. I don't know, but let me go with you, Lewis, just to try and help you wake up a little bit. What rating would you give Mendy? Because I don't think Monster's far off with the 9.5.
Yeah, I was going to go as close to 10 as possible. So, yeah, 9.5 can run for Mendy too. Has barely put a foot wrong this season. Came into the Chelsea team with the lowest expectations of a goalkeeper in probably Chelsea history. Like, we were literally celebrating him catching the ball in the first few games. So it was pretty easy for him to impress us. He had like a very small dip in December under Frank Lampard when we started to fall apart. Like, there was a couple of sus moments, but it don't mean anything. Like the Wolves game, I think the Manchester City game as well. His playing out the back was a little bit iffy at that period too, but that's improved levels under Thomas Tuchel since he's joined. And I feel like the confidence has been fully restored in him as well, because I won't say that he wasn't confident, but I think the whole team wasn't confident in that period. That's why everyone was looking bad except for Mason Mount, because no, not just Mason Mount. I'd say Reece James as well, but the injuries were holding him back at that point too. But we've already spoke about how the 4-3-3 benefited the academy players more than the entire team, and that was the entire problem at the time. Since Tuchel's come in, Mendy's looked back to the Mendy that we saw when he first joined, and that drop in form was like a drop in the ocean, to be honest. It barely even meant anything. So 9.5 regardless. He's got the least goals conceded by a Champions League winner in Champions League history. He's got, I think, over 25 clean sheets in all competitions. And it's not to just say he's been standing there doing nothing for the most part, because he has been called into action in all of those games, and he's shown up when he's needed. So Edouard Mendy gets as high of a rating as we can go. I'd go 9.5, and I'd be happy with it.
And you know what, quickly before you move on, what people don't realize, I tweeted this out the other day, Chelsea have the second best defensive record in the Premier League. We would have had the first had the West Brom game didn't happen. We would have actually had the best record in England. And we also have the best record in the Champions League. And not just the best record,
not just this season, ever.
Breaking. Yes, the best season, the best defensive season ever in Champions League.
Said Mendy conceded 3 goals in the entire tournament. That is ridiculous.
3 or 4.
Now we conceded
Kepa conceded one.
Kepa did. Oh yeah, there you go. The best defensive record ever in Champions League history. Like, deep it. This is what this obviously is him and the defense. So do you know what I mean? Considering where we were last season, that's, to me, that's a massive, massive, upgrade and progression. It's massive.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and it's crazy. But it's also crazy to think that during the whole tournament, we conceded 4 goals, and against West Brom, we conceded 5, and over 2 games against West Brom, we conceded 8. But during the whole Champions League tournament, we conceded 4 goals. That's crazy. But Pies, let me get to you. Do you agree on the 9.5 for Mendy? Because I know we all want to discuss so much on each individual player, but we'll just drag this on for too long. Like, we have like 25 odd players to get through, and Tuchel. So let's try not to be too long, Pies. But do you agree on the 9.5, or would you even go 10 or 9? How do you see it?
No, to be fair, I agree with what the boys have said. I mean, I'd go for 9.5. The only two games that I guess you could knock him for, which doesn't give him a 10, would be obviously the Everton game when he gave away a penalty. And maybe some could argue the Aston Villa at home game, the goal he conceded went through his legs. I mean, maybe he could have done a bit better with that. I saw a lot of people at the time say that was poor goalkeeping, but that one's up for debate. But for the sake of just moving on, 100% 9.5. 10 would be absolutely flawless, which, to be honest, he's been near flawless. That's why he's getting a 9.5. So just maybe one or maybe the Aston Villa game let him down. But man, he's been an incredible signing. Like for the price and just his story, his story coming up, incredible. So I agree, 9.5, nearly flawless, but just not quite.
But then,
again.
But Pies, that's crazy. Like, imagine that you can only the whole season you can only name 2 games.
I know.
Do you know how wild that is?
10, boys.
Yeah, do you know how wild that is? Like,
he's been incredible. Like,
the fact that you only have to say, oh yeah, it was just 2 games. That's crazy. That's
crazy. Especially
does everyone agree if I just give him a 10? Because after what all of us have just said, there is no logic in not giving him a 10.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Are we in a positive mood, man? We're champions of Europe. I'm all for this.
There you go. Let's next get to Mr. Kepa Arrizabalaga. Yes, I'm cultured. I can pronounce his name. What we say about the poor guy? Obviously, first 3 or 4 games before Mendy actually got to play was a shambles. Like the man still has the most mistakes, like individual errors and mistakes that led to goals of any Chelsea player this season. And he only played like 5 Premier League games. Like, it's not a good stat. But ever since Tuchel has come in, I think it's done good. I don't think it can be blamed for the goal that Leicester scored in the cup final. Maybe Mendy saves it, sure, but it's not Kepa's fault that he's shorter than Mendy. So, don't blame him. He's done all right, I suppose, but obviously at the start, that really wasn't great. But I'm happy he got his confidence back. He looked so happy in the Champions League celebrations and stuff. I don't know. I'd probably give him like a, with the second half of the season considered, I'd give him like a 6 maybe. Well, what do we feel about that? Let me go with you first, Lewis. What would you give Kepa? Maybe a 7, I suppose.
He had that run of like 5 clean sheets in a row, but I don't feel like he was even really that tested in any of them. 5, like, he hasn't, other than the start of the season, he hasn't done much wrong. I don't blame him for the FA Cup final goal. He just shouldn't have started that game. Like, that's a deficiency that he can't really handle. It's just there. You have to deal with it as it's there. I'd give him a 5. Like, by his standards, he's had a good season, I guess. Like, he's recouped some transfer valuation. He's brought some confidence back to his game. I still am scared shitless whenever he's starting, but like, I'm not as worried as I used to be, I guess, and I guess that's something. So I'd give him a 5.
Yeah, exactly. No, that is fair. And by the way, I see everybody in the chat, giving your ratings. I appreciate it a lot. I do see it, and I will take it into consideration. Do not worry. Let me go with you next, Pice. What about Kepa? 5, 6, higher, lower? What are you feeling?
Yeah, I was going to say 5 or 6. I don't know, really. I'm more leaning towards a 5, but I mean, just at the start of the season, like the Liverpool mistake, especially, that game was really annoying when he just passed it to Mane. I don't know. I guess 5's like the average rating, and for the job he's done, I would probably go with a 5, to be honest, man. It's a weird one with Kepa because he's been like in and out, obviously, because of Mendy, but yeah, I'd probably say 5, maybe 5.5, not sure, somewhere like that.
Yeah, I'd probably agree on one of those. Monster, what about you?
It's probably going to be a 5.5, man, because I can't forget Southampton. Can't forget the goal he let in against Brighton the first game.
Oh, I forgot about Southampton. Oh my God.
Can't forget Liverpool. I think it was Krasnodar when he came in the Champions League and they shot, and it was an easy shot that went in as well. It's just too many games, man. Like, he's lucky I didn't go under 5. Only because we won the Champions League, I'll give him a 5.5. I just don't think he's not good enough. He's not good enough.
I'm happy if you guys want to go
the
5 as well.
Southampton game, that stinky match, man. He fucking tackled a ball that weren't even a back pass. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Do you know how much I was raging about that? Yeah, 5 just because we're doing good vibes and that. But if we lost, that would have been a 4.
Yeah.
No, to be honest,
you have to Kepa, like whenever he's playing, it's just what pisses me off the most is the confidence it gives other players to score bangers.
Yeah.
That's what pisses me off the most. So
You remember Morecambe? Morecambe licked shots from everywhere. I was like, you lot are a League 2 club and you're doing this, man. This
you
shows
could hear
a lack
them
of
on the
respect.
bench every time someone got the ball. You could hear their players on the bench screaming, "Just shoot, just shoot."
Tielemans saying that he got a message from his mate telling him to just shoot as well in a
Do you
cup
remember-
final.
He had that
Ridiculous.
opportunity to when Mendy was in goal in the Premier League. Tielemans
Yes.
had the opportunity to shoot and he didn't shoot. Now that tells you the difference.
that's exactly
between
what I
the two.
said.
That
I
was
said
so early in the
Tielemans,
game too.
not only does Mendy probably save it, I think Tielemans doesn't even try it if Mendy's in goal
Doesn't
that day.
attempt it.
That's
I thank God we won the Champions League. I don't care about that final.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think a 5 overall is probably fair. It's not a dreadful rating. It certainly recouped some of that in the second half of the season, and especially that Barnsley game and the Newcastle game in the Prem. He was very good, made some good saves in those games. So fair play to him. I suppose next we go with the captain himself, one of the centre backs. I suppose at the start of the season he was more of a right back, but for the important part of the season, he was played as a centre back and wing back, actually. But let me go with him first. People will get confused by the abbreviation of CA, but those are his initials. I can't help it. Says as Maliqueta, like that's his name. I don't know. Let me start with you this time, Pice, and let me go myself as last. What would you rate Aspie? Because obviously at the start of the season, didn't play. I mean, he played, but not every game. Like obviously, Reece James was the main right back, and Aspie didn't play centre back. So it's difficult, really. But under Tuchel, he's been phenomenal.
Bro, I hate going first. These sort of things. Like, I'd rather just listen to everyone and then form my own opinion. But I don't know. Yeah, like you said, he wasn't really playing at the start. But under Tuchel in the 3 at the back, man, like, even when he's been playing right wing back a few times, like, people didn't really like it. But I don't know. He's not been terrible, has he? Like, even playing there, like, but right centre back, he's been really good. It's going to be interesting to see what the other guys say as well.
You can read the chat if you need inspiration.
Yeah, that 7.58. I was going to say 8.5 just because I thought the final performance as well was really, really good. Especially that clearance. Like, I'm just trying to think as well, like the whole season, but also I'm trying to think about the final because that really does make the season special. Yeah, I mean they're all saying sort of 8.5. I'd go 8.5 just because I think on the Tuchel, I think he deserves that extra point. Yeah, 8.5 I'm going to settle on.
Fair play, Monster. What about you? Personally, I think 8.5 might be a tad high, but maybe you guys all overrule me. How do you see it, Monster?
I would give him an 8. He has had. Listen, if you win the Champions League, you automatically get a higher number because come on, you won the biggest competition in the what do you call it? The whole season. If it was, remember, it's just, to me, it's the same thing. If we had won the Prem, we would have probably gotten that rating as well. So it's an 8 for me. I think he's been good, especially in big games, whether we play that right centre back or we play that right wing back. I think that the only issue I had with him at right wing back was maybe going forward a little. He might not have added enough to his game. But apart from that, I thought he was brilliant throughout the season. When we needed him towards the end. So I'll give him an 8. I'll give him an 8.
I think an 8 is probably fair. Lewis, how do you see it about Aspie?
We're doing a season review, aren't we?
Yeah. My problem is, can we hold it against him when he didn't really play at the start of the season? Because can't really.
Well, it's not necessarily holding it against him, but he also didn't really play for a majority of the season, and I still think that's a fact.
Got rate him based on the games he played. That's how we're rating him. That's how.
Yeah, but I'd still say his first half of the season, like when he played at right back, it still wasn't really the same levels of performance that you were getting under Thomas Tuchel. Like under Tuchel, he's been amazing, but at right back, we've seen that he's had those struggles there since he reverted from right centre back to right back, and since he's come back, he's looked so much more consistent, and he's looked so much more like the old Azpilicueta for me. But I don't know, because when we did this yesterday, we also took into account how long they played throughout the season, and that was a factor in the ratings. That's why for me, I was gonna lower it down to about a 7. Mainly just for the lack of game time that he had in the first half of the season. But it's still not a knock on him regardless. It's just we had Reece James at right back for most of it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're not totally wrong with that. But to me, it's a case of under Tuchel, how close to a 10 was he? And I'd say for just under Tuchel, I would give him a 9, personally, if we take the first half of the season away. And then by an average, for me, I would probably give him a 6 to a 7 before that. So I'm anywhere between a 7 and an 8 for the overall season, if that makes sense. But then you have to kind of include, like Monster said, big games. The man turned up, and man especially turned up in the biggest game of the season, in the Champions League final. Man did a great job, especially in the second leg against Real Madrid. But even in the first leg, people were too harsh on him, in my opinion. And there was many games where he was just outstanding. And obviously, over the full season, I get that. But even this full season, some games still count more than others. Like, let's be honest, none of us are giving low ratings because of the second half against Spurs in the third round of the Carabao Cup, because we in the end lost, right? Like, that's one game, but in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really count for much. But the Champions League,
that was Emerson's fault, but yeah.
No, I'm not saying that's him. I'm saying for players overall, because the second half generally that day was dreadful. It was so good first half, and second half it all crumbled. Yeah, but anyway, like, I'd be okay with either a 7.5 or an 8, but Pi said 8.5. You said 7. Monster said 8. I think let's be positive. Like Lewis said earlier, let's just give him the 8, I reckon. And
go for it.
If by the end we say maybe it was a bit too high, we can still drop it down to a 7.5 later, if that makes sense. Let me get to who shall we do next? I suppose let's do the start. Yeah, exactly. Let's do the starting back 3 first, I suppose, and then we get to the other centre backs. Let's go with Thiago Silva. Hopefully, people do understand the TS abbreviation. Let me almost go the other way around. Lewis, what about Thiago Silva? Because he's been great, but obviously injured. I'm not sure. For me, being injured is almost different to being not played by the manager. It's like a bit different in how I see that in terms of how do I rate that. And obviously had 2 howler games against West Brom and West Brom. Otherwise, he's been fantastic, really.
Yeah. Wait, just for clarification, we're not really taking the amount of game time into that much consideration, are we?
No.
I just want to know how we're ranking it. Okay,
I'm just going by how they played when they played.
Yeah.
All right, cool. If that's the case, then Thiago Silva, 9.5 for me, because every time he's played, regardless of how good our defense looks, he still looks levels clear of everybody. He's our most progressive passer going forward. Literally our deep line player and playmaker in the middle of the back 3. Positioning, excellent. Blocks, interceptions, everything you want from a defender and more. And the impact that he's had on our defense since he's joined has been ridiculous. Like, for 4 months, he made Kurt Zouma look like one of the best centre-backs in the league. So, yeah, if we're not doing this based on game time, 9.5.
Hey, it's a shout. And like I said, going back the other way around, Monster, what about you? Personally, I think a 9.5 may be a tad high, but how do you see it?
Listen, I'm going to give a little speech when it comes to Thiago Silva.
Go on.
Listen, when Thiago Silva was coming to Chelsea, I did think pieces, I did everything, letting people know the quality of who's coming to our team. This is someone I followed from when he was at Fluminense, and I used to live in Brazil. I remember watching him. He was so good. This guy was world class. When he moved to AC Milan,
we're learning all the personal things about Monster. I didn't know you lived in Brazil. Fair play.
I did. When he went to AC Milan for a good 5 years, the same impact Van Dijk had, he had over there, and he was considered by far the best centre back in the world. A lot of people don't know this because they don't watch football outside England. What do you call it? So when he came to Chelsea, I knew he was going to have that same impact at this age. And I remember doing streams with the guys from the Copish and all this, and they were laughing at me when I told them how good this guy was.
I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that. That video went viral. Now we can now see how good this guy really is. And at 36 years old, he has this kind of impact. You got to remember, our defense was so good in the beginning before it went wrong with Lampard. We kept so many clean sheets. He made Zuma look like an outstanding defender. And every time he's played, barring the 2 West Brom games, that's 2 out of like 40 or 50 something games where he didn't play well. He had just 2 bad games. Every other game, he's
but Thiago Silva didn't play 40 or 50 games. He
played 36, I think it is 36 games. 2 out of 36.
That many? Okay, fair play.
It was 36. Yeah, he's played 2. So you can only point out 2 bad games out of 36 games where this guy has been bad. If it weren't for his injuries, to me, before he got injured, he was the player of the year guaranteed. But then he got injured and then he didn't get to play. To me, he's a 9.5. You have to give him, to me, a 9.5. He's just been that good.
Fair enough. Before I go to Pies, I'll explain myself. I know Lewis literally asked, how much do we how much value do we give the fact that he didn't play a certain amount of games? And like I said, not really. And like Monster said, obviously judge him by how many games he's played. But I feel like it's different when you're not being picked compared to being injured, because that's kind of part of the problem that you have when you're 36. Like the fact that he got injured in his groin in the final by landing a simple half a yard jump is the problem you have when you're 36. 10 years ago, he wouldn't get that injury. Should I take any ratings off him for that? It's difficult for me to rate and to judge, but I will personally probably give him a 9, but if Pice now comes in and agrees on a 9.5, a 9.5 it is, Pice. But Pice, how do you see it?
100% a 9.5 for me.
There we go. Go on.
Like, as the boys have said, been incredible. You've got to take his agent into account as well. 36, he's going to sign for another year. Like, the way he looks after his body so well, like, he's the ultimate professional. Even off the pitch, if you guys haven't seen the Chelsea Unseen, go and watch it. See him on the bench. He's chucking his bottle around, shouting, like celebrations, like Reece James as well in the dressing room. Like, he got a picture with Reece James, and then Reece James almost like said like thank you to him, for taking a picture. Like, this guy is like an icon. Like, he is an icon. He's a football icon, and I just talking off the pitch as well. Like with the players, as I was saying, like, they must absolutely love him. Like, he's really special. Like, they say it all the time. And on the pitch, his ability is ridiculous. Like Lewis said, most progressive passer, makes us just so much better. I feel a sense of confidence, which you shouldn't really feel when you have a 36-year-old defender in your back line. But that's just how good he is, because he just makes you feel extra confident. He's just so good, man. So good at defending still. Like, even if, like, people say, he's going to get ruined for his pace. Well, no, because he's like Terry. He has the IQ to not allow that to happen. You know what I mean? His positioning sense is amazing. He just is the ultimate defender, man. I wish he never got injured, because, like, really sad way to go off in the final. But at least he won it, man. There's no one other than Mendy, I think, with the story that deserves that more. Like, really, I was so happy that we was able to win it with him. For sure.
And don't forget, he was last Champions League final last year. He was PSG's best player as well. So,
exactly. Yeah. And they only
he was their man of the match.
1 goal to Bayern, who was trouncing every team in Europe last season.
Yeah. Hey, and if it wasn't Mbappe bottling it, they would have won that last year already.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
And then people had the nerve to call Tuchel a bottler. Like, get out of here, man.
No, exactly. Like I said, we can't get held up too long for each individual player, because, like I said, we have a lot of players to get through. Let's get through to Kurt Zuma. Tough one again. Like, obviously played a lot at the start under Frank, and played well, and then also played well in some games under Tuchel, like that when obviously he had to play central centre back against Atletico in the second leg at home, when Christensen was, I don't know, ill or injured, and Thiago was obviously injured at the time. That was a masterclass performance of Zuma. But then, for example, you had like a game like against the Southampton 1-1 draw, where he obviously made the mistake for us to concede, and then he had a game recently where he really wasn't particularly brilliant. It's tough to judge him, but in the grand scheme of things, still being good. But how good? Mind you, we gave Kepa a 5. So for me, because I just go first this time, I'd probably give Zuma a 6.5 to 7 is why I'm lying right now. Let me go with you first, Monster. How do you see that one?
He's had good games. He's had bad games. I think the Arsenal game, I know a lot of people blame Jorginho for the back pass. I feel like Zuma is just as to blame for that as well, because he had
100%.
he had an outlet in Kepa, and he had an outlet in Billy Gilmore, and he had an outlet in what's it called? Chilwell, and he decided to pass it to Jorginho, who had 4 men around him.
Yeah.
So I do, put the blame on him for that. And as well, he's had some bad games, but he's also had some good games, like against Everton, where Calvert-Lewin was an aerial threat. We needed someone to quell that. Zuma came in, he done that. He was excellent against Atletico Madrid as well. So I think he's had a good season overall. So I would give him a 7. I'll give him a 7.
I feel just to make that counter argument to you, Monster, and then say if you stick by the 7, we gave Aspie an 8. Isn't Zuma a bit close to Aspie?
No, I think Aspie's had a slightly better season.
Fair play. No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, because the reason why I quickly say that is that we needed Aspie in these big games. We didn't need Zuma.
That's true. It's very, very true. Pice, how about you? A lot of people in the chat saying like at least 0.5 extra for all the goals he scored. And he did score a lot. Sadly, as the season tailed off, didn't score any anymore, even when he played. But what about you? Do you agree on the 7 or tad lower, tad higher even? How do you see it, Pice?
No, I think I'd go for a 7. I think 0.5 extra comes from the goals, like from 6.5 to 7 to me. Yeah, I wouldn't go any higher just because under Tuchel he's not been important at all. And obviously it really just doesn't suit to the way Tuchel plays with the ball playing, requirements. That's why Christensen came on the final, because he's amazing on the ball. So people don't really take that into account, but it's vital, with the progressive passing and how much we pass it around to try and get it into the midfield. That's why Zuma really doesn't play under Tuchel. But he has had good games, so I'll go with a 7 and 0.5 from 6.5 to 7 for all the goals he's scored.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Lewis, do you agree on a 7 for Zuma?
I say we could do 7 just for the good vibes and everything, but I could really do lower, I can't lie. Yeah, he's been great under Lampard, but I even say up until a certain point, because after that he did get benched for Rudiger towards the end of it. But since Tuchel's come, he's been awful. And other than the game against Manchester City,
at home, he was brilliant in that game.
And at Atletico at home, he was more passing back to the goalkeeper, though. Like if I'm going to give him credit for any game, I'll give him credit for Manchester City when he came on in the away game. And
you're not going to rate him for the points he won for us with his goals, because he did win quite a few games for us.
He did, but I mean, it was a point where our only real method of scoring was Mason Mount corners to Kurt Zuma, and his aerial threat is always, is his biggest strength, if we're being honest. But I don't know, as a player, I think this season, I think it's just been 2 halves for me, really, and I think the second half has just been awful. Like with the Southampton game, both Southampton games, the Arsenal game, the West Brom game, where I think he was responsible for about a good 3 of the goals. I would go 6.5, but if you want to do good vibes and go for higher, you can go for it. Like I'm not going to argue.
If you said 6 now, just to make it a compromise of us 3, I might have given him the 6.5. But if you say 6.5, that's only 0.5 of what we'd give him anyway.
I was going to say 6. I just didn't want to sound like I had an agenda in it.
You know what? Let's like I said, positive vibes. Let's do 7, and again, we can come back to it at the very end. Obviously, we could have Tomori. I don't know how we'd rate him. Like, how many games he played? Like 5, if that. And how many did he start?
Played 90 minutes.
He barely played, but every time we did need him, he did come in quite clutch.
He did good.
Very good player.
I think he only played the second half against Liverpool, and like the last 10 minutes against Morecambe.
And he was the best centre back in that game.
He was. That's true. That is very true. And someone just put it in the chat: is Tomori going to come back? It seems like he is not. Fabrizio Romano, I think this morning, stated that AC Milan are going to sign him for that 28 million euros buyout clause or option to buy, whatever. So seems like Tomori is on his way out. Good luck. All the best to him.
Happy for him.
Yeah, exactly. Very happy for him. I hope he, has a successful career. Who knows? maybe one day he'll come back. Who knows? But I love the guy personally. And by the way, guys, we have 300 and nearly 50 people watching. Big ups to yourselves for that. Get subscribed if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. Smash that like button. If you want to get involved in our ratings, and obviously I see all of you guys put it in the chat, but if you want to, I don't know, have a more significant input because it's difficult to hide any single one, do use the super chat function. Of course, it's always appreciated. I suppose next we get into the real fullbacks / wingbacks, and let's go with the two starters first, I reckon. And first one of that,
we got Rudiger.
Sorry?
Rudiger.
I forgot Rudiger. You're 100% right. I should have gone Rudiger before Zuma. Anyway, Antonio Rudiger. My bad. Thank you, Monster. Rudiger. Wow. How could I forget? My Monster is literally on the thumbnail. What a guy. Barely played at the start. Then he comes in and actually did good on a Frank too. And aside from the own goal against Sheffield United, I don't think he put a foot wrong, to be totally honest with you. So if we're going to be actually rating just what he played, I think he might be up there with Thiago Silva on a 9.5, Maybe a 9, but no lower than that, in my opinion. Let me go with you second, I suppose, behind me then this time, Pice. What would you give good old Tony?
Yeah, like you said, just basically completely off what he played. I mean, it's been so good, man. Like, I don't know. Like,
Christensen, I forgot as well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna let the boys decide, but for me, I'm gonna say 9. I think. Yeah,
fair.
I'm gonna go 9.
Lewis, what about you? It seems like Monster is the positive of us today, so let me bring the positivity at the very end. Lewis, what about Rudiger?
No, I echo the same thing. He's been a 9. Didn't play that much in the first half of the season, but still, when he did play, it was solid performances. Came in towards the end of Lampard's reign, and those games weren't as good, but the mood around the entire club weren't great. So I'm not going to sit here and hold him responsible for that. Since Tuchel's come in, he's been ridiculous, and he was the defender I worried about the most out of everyone in our backline, especially after 1920. Even though, to be honest, everyone was poor in 1920. But he's completely thrown every worry I've had about him completely out of the water. He was hella rash last season, but he looks a lot more composed now, despite having the same fire and intensity in his game. He looks like a leader. He plays like a leader. I think he's barely put a foot wrong, and he's out of... Here's the thing. Here's the maddest thing. There has been a debate over right centre-back. There's been a debate over middle centre-back the entire time under Thomas Tuchel. We have never debated left centre-back. Rudiger's had that position on lock since he's joined, and that's been it. You've had Kurt Zouma play the odd game or so there, but that's only been if Rudiger's been injured or if we've been resting him. He's the only one that's locked down his spot. So for me, I'd say, 9. I'd have to go 9 for him too.
That is fair. Monster, what about you? 9 or 9.5, or would you go lower?
I would give him a 9 as well. He has to... Listen, you said something that was very true. It wasn't Tuchel that brought Rudiger back. It was actually Frank Lampard. He played Lampard's last couple of games, but even when he played those games, he was actually quite good, and he was good in those games too. So I've not really seen him have a bad game since he's played. I think the way the fan base treated him was horrible and disgusting. And he's come and he's redeemed himself. Last season, I think the issue was injury, and maybe the system Lampard had put in place was, exposed our centre backs and our full backs as well. And Tuchel's come in and fixed that up, and now these guys have been unbelievable. And Rudiger's looked world class. I'm not saying he is yet, because there's a bit of consistency that needs to be shown over a couple of seasons before you consider someone world class. But he's shown that level, and he's been brilliant. So to me, he would get a 9.
That is fair. I would have been absolutely okay doing a 9.5 personally. Maybe even just for the article he wrote, because that was one of the most impressive articles I've ever seen any sportsman write. Because that wasn't an interview. That he seems to have actually written that. Maybe, he dictated it to someone that can actually write, maybe, but any which way. Nearly forgot about another guy, and Lewis's favorite human in the world, Mr. AC Hive. And, because it's Mr. AC Hive, I just put it to you first and foremost. Put the little picture up. The AC Penitentiary is very full.
Did it before me. Love it.
Exactly. The penitentiary is very full. Maybe we need to expand again next season. What rating do you drop in, bro?
11. We can move on. Nah. Serious point. I'd go 9, same as Rudiger, and it's probably been the similar sort of season. Barely played that much under Frank Lampard, but when he did play in like the Champions League games, the cup matches, solid. I won't say he was excellent or anything, but he was a solid defender, just like Rudiger was. Since Tuchel's come into the squad and with Thiago Silva's injury against Spurs, he's coming in the middle of the back three and he's just looked so confident, so composed on the ball, and his IQ is something else. I swear down. He's thrown potentially every single agenda against him in the mud in the space of about 4 months. First, the thing that he doesn't win aerial battles. Then it's the thing that he doesn't win aerial duels. Then it's he pussies out at the big games. But now he's played both legs against Real Madrid and 60 minutes in the Champions League final, he came on and dropped a 10 out of 10. So for me, I'd go same rating as Rudiger. I think they both deserve 9s. They've both been equally as important for us this season.
Hey, that's Lewis. We'll get to the other two boys. Guys, by the way, if you really want to change one of the ratings, let me make it a bit simpler that way. Use the super chat function, and then we'll discuss what are the ratings you might suggest if you think we're totally off on one of them. Let me go with you, Pice. Do you agree that AC has been as good as Rudiger, or would you give him a slightly lower rating?
Yeah, I think to be fair, they've been as good as each other. I mean, Christensen as well, especially for all the doubters like he had, man, he's really stepped it up, hasn't he? For sure. Yeah, just so good on the ball as well. Underrated, very good defensively, as Lewis said. I mean, he really shut all the doubters up about, he's too pussy in the big games and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, you can argue an 8.5, but for me as well, positive vibes. I think I'm going for a 9. I think he deserves it, especially if Rudiger got a 9. I think, yeah, especially on the Tuchel, both just been. I mean, every time they both play, they're like, who's been better? They've both been done masterclasses. So I think one's been better than the other. So I think they deserve the same rating.
Yeah, that's why I would have given Rudiger the 9.5, so I could give Christensen a 9, if that makes sense, because Rudiger hasn't had a bad game, and Christensen had 1 or 2. For example, the City one. I know we won it in the end anyway, but that's how
his fault though. I don't know. It's just stretched to get the ball, and then
we could have just headed it out for a corner.
Yeah, he could have done. But
yeah.
You know what?
I'd say it's a moment though, because the same thing we could say Rudiger with the own goal against Sheffield United.
That was both Rudiger and Mendy though. That was just a miscommunication.
I know, but we're nitpicking when it comes to those sorts of things. That's the thing.
He has had a couple shaky games, a few early on in the season. Liverpool,
I thought he had a good game. It was just a red card.
He did have a good game, and then he got the red card. And that red card cost us. You know what I mean? You can't.
And Southampton, I hear what you're saying. Zuma was way worse. Zuma and Kepa were way worse.
Zuma, yeah. But then there was that time where I think Christensen was out of position for Danny Ings' goal as well.
I hear that was. I'd say that was both of them, but I still say he shares the blame on that one. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so my rating on Christensen would probably be 8.5. I feel like Rudiger was a lot more consistent over the season than what's his name? Then Christensen. So I'll just drop a 0.5 off of his rating. But apart from that, he's had a brilliant season. He proved a lot of people, including myself, wrong.
I personally would agree that it's because we overall agreed on the 9 for Rudiger. I don't think Christensen can be the same for me. He's had not too many, but just a couple more games where he did something wrong than Rudiger. So how can you sorry, bro. I'm sorry. Sorry. But that's actually the centre back stand now. I don't think I forgot another one aside from obviously Tomori. Let's get to those wing backs. Let's start it with Reece James, one of the man of the matches of the Champions League final, in my opinion, without a shadow of a doubt. Absolutely fantastic performance. And it's weird for me. Let me go first because it's brilliant for pretty much nearly every game he played as right back. Then he had a few games as a right wing back where, in my opinion, he was just too safe. And I only say that because of how capable I know he is on the ball. And that's why it sometimes frustrated me that he didn't attempt more daring passes from that position and very slightly too often played it safe to go backwards or hold the ball. But in big games, for example, like the Champions League final, that's exactly what I wanted from him. He played one of those passes that I've been craving from him to Werner. I know Diaz just about got there before Werner, but that, on the ground curling pass down the line to Werner was unbelievable. And that is the kind of pass that I'm kind of talking about here that I wish he played more of. But I think overall, you can't really complain. Man's played 3 different positions and was brilliant in all 3 of them. I suppose he played 4, but it was only one half against Villa at DM. And I suppose first 10, 15 were a bit shaky, and after that, he got used to it again from his Wigan days. So even there, he was great. It's difficult for me with that Aspie 8, and if I put it into context, because I would love to give Reece an 8, probably. No, to be honest, I think personally, I think an 8 is fine. Let me go with you first, then, Monster, compared to the other ones. How do you see Reece? Would you go higher than 8, or do you think 8 is fair?
I would give him an 8.5. I think he's had an amazing season overall. He has had shaky moments as well. Arsenal, Wolves. He gave away the goal, he gave away the ball that led to the goal against Leicester in the final of the FA Cup. So he has had quite shaky moments in it. But listen, it's only his 2nd season, and for such a young player as well, I think maybe we expect too much for someone who's so young. So I think he's had an amazing season overall anyway, and I can't fault him for the mistakes he's made. He's a young player, so I think he's had an 8.5, and it's been a satisfying season for him.
You make a good point. Obviously, maybe age has to come into consideration. For me, it's just, I don't know. One of the things that I really need him to stop doing is giving silly fouls away. So he didn't do it in the Champions League final, which was a big thing in that game, in my opinion. But that is one of the things that frustrated me about him. Like, he loves to give a silly foul away. Well, clearly he doesn't like to, but he just does it a few too many times. Appreciate the donation by African Prince here saying Kane celebrating new boots, not new trophies. There you go. There you go. Me as not being English, although Austria's not going to win anything, so I kind of hope England win it. But if not England, then, hey, just another trophy that Kane can't win that maybe he should win. Although I suppose France are maybe even bigger favourites than England. Let me go with you, Lewis. What rating would you give for Reece James then?
Who would I give a rating? I think for him, 8.5, I think. Because first half of the season, his performance at right back were ridiculous. I was saying he's the best right back in the league because his performances were that consistent, and he was that good both defensively and going forward. Since the injury before the Arsenal game and him being overplayed, which kind of dented his confidence, I think, as well, because he came back under Tuchel and he was just a bit less intense as he usually was. Like, I think he was a lot more safe in his play, and people were saying it was to his disadvantage, but with the system that we played as well, I didn't think it was that bad. Like, I'd rather you be safe than keep losing the ball consistently. But as an overall season, even with him moving into right centre back, and he did have the howler for the FA Cup final goal, but that was the only real one. I think the Champions League final just kept Sterling in his back pocket, which, to be honest, he always does. The Leicester City Cup final as well, to be honest, he kept Vardy in his back pocket, even if there was an issue for the goal. So for me, it's been a massively consistent season for him. I'd give him an 8.5.
Fair play. Monster does need to head off, has just headed off. He's doing his own stream. Stick around for a while. The Monster stream will definitely go longer than ours. So when we're done, you can head over there. I reckon that's fair on everybody. 8.5 for you, Lewis, as well. Pice, how do you see it? 8.5, 8? How do you think we should rate Reece?
Yeah, see, I'm really struggling between an 8 or an 8.5. Struggling to decide because we give Aspie an 8, and he has been so consistent on the Tuchel, but and as Monster said, Reece did make a few mistakes. There's been a few dodgy games, but I think because of his age and just his on the ball ability, Reece just is generally the better. How do you explain it? When you watch Reece and Aspie, yeah, he's just the better footballer, isn't he? Really, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It sounds weird, but Yeah, Aspi just does the dirty work, I think. But Reece has more of an all-round game, with the amount of crosses he's put in and just his on-the-ball ability. And yeah, I think, especially his age taken into account, I think, and the Champions League final performance, I think maybe I'll push it to an 8.5, but I won't be unhappy with an 8. It's between one of those for me, I think.
I still feel like in my heart, Rudiger should have a 9.5, AC a 9, and Reece an 8.5. For me, that would be the fairest.
Rudiger doesn't get the same as Mendy for me, or similar.
We gave Mendy a 10, bro.
Even still, I think Rudiger 9. I think is perfect.
No, fair. Well, Monster's at 8.5, Lewis at 8.5. You're between 8 and 8.5. So I suppose 8.5 it is an 8. I love Reece. He's probably my actually favorite player that we have at the moment. So, big up Reece. No complaint from me. And I suppose next we go. I've got to add him. Mr. Ben Chilly Chilwell. Mr. Ben Chilly Chilwell. Oh, what did I do now then? Who was that? My bad. BC, Ben Chilwell. Ben bloody Chilwell. What a weird season that man has had. Brilliant, really, at the start. Man was scoring goals. It was so weird that he played an actual left-back role and weirdly was more offensive in that role than he was as a left wing-back under Tuchel. It's a bit strange, really, isn't it? But he's been absolutely brilliant, aside from the first 2 games, maybe 3 games, as a left wing-back. But he said it himself. Well, he struggled a little bit, never played left wing-back before, took time to learn from the manager, from Alonso, who was more used to the position, and came back. And for the last few weeks, has been one of our best players, in my opinion. And just look at the FA Cup final when Alonso played, how much bloody worse we were in every part of the game. Defensively, ball retention, everything. Everything we were just worse. And I think a big part of that was because it was Alonso there, not Ben Chilwell. I think Ben Chilwell has been a fantastic signing. Obviously not free like Thiago Silva, but overall a fantastic signing, especially with how young he is too. Maybe a tad lower than Reece. I'm between 7.5 and 8. How do you boys see it? Let me go with you first, Pice.
Yeah, these are so difficult because we're trying to think of the whole season. As you said, score goals at the start, looked really good. And then Tuchel's been quite good. Yeah, he's been really consistent as well. I think as well for the doubters he's had, like even myself. I mean, I really did quite doubt him. I didn't really think he'd be as consistent as he has been. So I got to give him props for that. I mean, probably an 8, I think. But then again, I think, did we give Reece an 8.5 or an 8? Which one was it?
8.5.
Yeah, see, I mean, has he been worse than Reece? I don't know. Like, it's difficult, isn't it? I don't know if he has been worse than Reece or if they've been really on the similar level. I mean, especially because if you're talking about like wing backs as well, you mentioned rightly that Reece James had a few like difficult games at right wing back, whereas like Chilwell, he was adapting to the role similar to Reece, but I think he got there. Like, I think he looked better there on the left wing back, if you get what I mean. I think he adapted quicker. Like, he was more attacking, whereas Reece, you said, was more safe. But I don't know. 8 or 8.5, I mean, it's going to be one of those. I'm struggling, though. I really am.
It's a tough one. Chat. First of all, help us decide. Use the super chat function if you want to. We still have over 330 people watching. Big ups yourself for that. Get subscribed. Smash the like button. But Lewis, what rating is Ben Chilly Chilwell for you?
8.5 for me as well. Great start under Lampard. Kind of fell off around Christmas, same way everyone else did. It leaked into Tuchel's start as well, which is why we saw Alonso starting a lot of those games. But since then, flawless. Like, he's been brilliant since around March, April-ish. So all in all, a great first season at Chelsea. So for me, I'll go 8.5.
Well, to be honest, both of you have made fair points. Like, especially Pice, with the way you said, I don't think he's necessarily done better than Reece in that position, but I think they offer just different things. Reece is safer when you give him the ball, you don't lose it, than when you give it to Chilly. But Chilly offers us more going forward. So I think that evens itself out. And I think probably the start of the season at left back and right back was probably roughly even. So I think an 8.5 for both of them is absolutely fair. I suppose next we get to Mr. Marcus Alonso, who has played a few games, has had one hell of a roller coaster ride of a season, hasn't he? You know, played the first 2 games, wasn't great. Well, no, played that game against West Brom, took off at halftime, outed by Frank Lampard. Not even anywhere near the squad anymore until Thomas Tuchel joins. Plays a few games, does good, nothing spectacular, but good. Then is dropped completely again, and then plays every now and again, is kind of poor, but then scores us the winner like against Man City. So, I don't know. For me, he gets a 5.5. Only for the goal against City is the only reason he gets a higher rating than Kepa. What about you, Pice?
I give him a 6 just for the City goal. I can't lie. I'm probably going to say a 6. I think.
Fair. Lewis, what about you? 6? Go on. No,
Alonso.
Yeah.
We're doing good vibes, so I guess 6. I still want him gone immediately, but yeah, I guess he had a good goal against Bad City, but no, he played well against Atletico Madrid in the first leg.
Better than Kepa.
Yeah, I think he was, to be fair. I mean, to be honest with you, like, everyone, like, slams Alonso because he's annoying to watch, but he still had some good games, like, especially in the
He's had some few good games against when we've been playing low blocks under Tuchel because we can afford
I reckon
to keep
he's
him
had
in the
less
squad.
good games than Kepa this season.
Probably has, to be honest. Yeah, 5. Well, I can't be asked.
No, but then but the 3 points against City though, bro, like for the top 4 race, like I don't know, like isn't that massive? Like
I know, but like I also got to judge him on how he played, and he was still like horribly suspect in that match until he scored.
Yeah, well, that's what
I can't wait to hear what rating Pice wants to give Drew. He probably wants to give him a 10 just for the goal against Atletico.
For me, it has to be about 5, I guess.
I mean, I like I said, I would have said 5.5. You now say 5. Pice said 6. So I think 5.5 is probably fair. Like, it's not like we're far off what you said, Pice. And also, it's still better than Kepa overall. So I think we should all be okay with a 5.5. I think 5.5 is okay. I suppose next in line, did Emerson do enough to get a rating? Just about, maybe. Played a little more than Tomori, scored a big goal against Atletico. I know we didn't necessarily need it to go through, but it made things easier. I mean, I like him more, so I want to give him a higher rating than Alonso. I can't lie to you. I know he didn't play as much, but when he did play, aside from that game against Spurs, which we touched on a lot earlier when Monster was still here, I would give him a 6, but I know it's not fair, so probably a 5 or 5.5. What about you, Lewis, for Emerson?
5 as well. Like, he played less than... No, he didn't even play less than he did. He did have more game time. It was good in some of the Champions League games, but also horribly mid in some of them as well. Had the goal against Atletico, which didn't really mean too much in the grand scheme of things. I'd rather we keep him as a sub option than Alonso, but...
I agree.
5. I'd say you'd have to get the same thing as Marcos Alonso for me.
Fair enough. Pies, what about you then? What about Emerson?
5, I think, probably.
5. And for you, that is including Alonso being on a 5.5, and is it for you? It's if Alonso was also 5, right, Lewis?
Yeah.
So if Alonso has a 5, you would give Emerson a 5.5.
I think they should both be the same rating, whatever Alonso is.
I agree with that. That's fair. Drop in the 5.5 then. Good old Emmy. I like him. Seems to be on his way out, as confirmed by, or as stated by Fabrizio Romano this morning.
I don't get why the hell we are selling Emerson over Alonso. Like, what is that?
Because he's younger and people want him and no one wants Alonso, and that's why.
So annoying, isn't it? Like, I know Alonso scores clutch goals and that, and like I guess in this, like, if we're keeping this formation, Alonso is going to be all right. But still, Emerson's such a better footballer. I don't get it. It's weird.
Honestly. I mean, I really hope we wait until after the Euros to sell Emerson because I reckon he's going to have a good Euros for Italy.
Bro, he's sick for Italy. I don't get it. Like if you
Yeah, so
actually
I think we're going to get more money from him. Hence why I hope we sell him after, not before.
yeah, like he's actually sick for Italy as well. I don't understand. It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's super weird. Wait, was it this season? No, it was last season where he was so good at the start, wasn't it? And then he got injured with Italy, and then it was all done. It was really annoying. But I suppose at 5.5. Now, question to you boys: do we mention Hudson-Odoi now, or do we mention him with the wingers?
Probably the wingers. I think.
Yeah, I suppose on a Frankie played winger, didn't he? So, yeah, I suppose that's fair. Well, then next is the midfielders. Let's start it slow and maybe less controversial. Billy Gilmore, BG. What about him? Hasn't had that much game time. Obviously, was still injured at the start of the season from Frank. Obviously, picked up that injury in Project Restart last year. Didn't play at the start. Kind of started to come back under Frank, but not a lot. Like obviously played Frank's last game. I'm pretty sure against Luton, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he played that game. And then obviously didn't get game time for months under Tuchel. And then came in, played a few games, and did well in all of them. His only bad game, I think, was against Barnsley, where he was, in my opinion, absolutely dreadful. As was everybody aside from Kepa and Tammy that day. So difficult to rate, really. Didn't play much. So for him, it's really difficult to say, how much you played doesn't make a difference, because it almost feels a bit weird giving him, because on performance, he probably deserves something like a 7. But it just seems weird to give him the same type of rating as Zuma, who played so much more. So how do you see that, Lewis?
Gilmore gets a 6 for me. I think he barely played much until Tuchel really came into the squad, and it was mostly cup games, but he was solid against Barnsley. He was solid against Fulham when he played. What was that?
I thought Barnsley was dreadful, but all the other games he did good.
I thought he was better than Kante was in that game, in my opinion. But
True,
like, there was a lot.
Didn't ask for much, to be fair.
Yeah, like, a lot of them weren't good in that game. Fulham, he struggled initially, but grew into the game. Same thing with the Manchester City match. Man of the match against Krasnodar. All that taken into account, probably give him a 6.
Yeah, I agree. I think 6 is good as well.
Well, there you go. That's the kind of pace that I need right now, because we have a lot of players to go. Bloody hell. How long was your stream about this yesterday, Louis? Surely this must have taken forever.
2.5 hours.
Well, there you go. We've got some time to go then. Next, after Billy Gilmore, let's mention probably the guy that's played. I wonder, actually, who has more game time this season, Kovacic or Kante? Probably Kovacic. So let's mention Ngolo Kante first then. They missed the Champions League this season. Like, you can't be more missed the Champions League than N'Golo Kante this year. You can't have 4 man of the matches out of 7 Champions League knockout games, and he didn't even play all 7. Say that again.
Back to back to back to back. Crazy.
Actually, someone tell me, wasn't he man of the match in the second leg against Porto as well? Because in the first one it was Jorginho. Wasn't it him in the second one too?
No, I think you just got 4 otherwise. I think everyone will be mentioning 5. I can't lie. I think it's 4. I think someone else got that one.
Maybe it was actually the Porto player, because obviously they won. Maybe it wasn't any of our players that got it.
Yeah.
That might be the case. But what about Ngolo? It's a tough one to call, really. Because under Frank, he had some really good times when Frank went to playing him as a DM with 2 8s in front of him. There was some games in which this worked amazingly well.
God,
then there was some games in which this didn't work at all.
God, no.
And then under Tuchel, he had games when, especially when him and Kepa played together, where he just did. Well, no, not actually. Whenever him and just some games where he was just too offensive and then not good enough offensively, where it was frustrating. But then in the clutch games, man really turned up. Like in the big games, Kante was absolutely outstanding. I know people won't like me saying this, and I know people will, because of the Champions League final, think he needs at least a 9, if not 10. For me, he gets an 8 or 8.5.
Nah, way too low. Gotta be way
8.5. No, there's no chance he gets higher than 8.5. Don't you remember how many times we were frustrated at his dreadful passing in the final third?
Yeah, I can't lie. Ngolo, he's had an amazing last 3 months, but as a season, I think there's definitely been bad games from him. There was that period between the Southampton and Man United games. I think it was 3 games on the bounce. So Kante, in my opinion, was the worst player on the pitch. Did well when we went to 4-3-3. But again, for me, I said I never really backed him as a lone DM unless you're playing teams who park the bus. And we went through a massive streak of playing teams that park the bus. As soon as we faced the likes of Arsenal and Man City, that was curtains. Under Tuchel, didn't really get... Oh, yeah, it was Pulisic and Jorginho for both legs. Under Tuchel, didn't really get into the squad over Jovicic until, I think, Kovacic got injured. Had a good game against Atletico Madrid. And I think since around March, that's when we really started to see the best of Ngolo Kante. So for me, I'd say an 8.5, I think is fair.
I mean, Pice is very unhappy with us. So, Pice, what about you?
I just think 8 is way too low. I think 8.5 or 9. Taking those bad games into account, maybe an 8.5. But I don't know, man. Like the lone DM thing, that's just Lampard being an absolute bozo anyway. So, like, he's not a lone DM. So, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I've slated him for his passing.
Yeah, but by that logic, we should give Zuma a 10 because it's not his fault. Tuchel played 3 at the back, in which he's much worse.
Well, that's why Zuma don't play, though. Kante still played loads under Lampard. You know what I mean?
It's true. It's true.
Like,
Can't say nothing.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, if we're talking about Kante's impact, though, in the games he has done well, like, I don't know, man. I struggle not to give him at least a 9. I can't lie. Like, I just think I know he's had some inconsistent games, but the games in the Champions League, like we've won the Champions League. Like, I don't know, man. You have to take that campaign even more so into account over the Premier League, in my opinion. Like, especially because the Premier League was so inconsistent with like the whole changing their managers and things, but in the Champions League, he was never not consistent. So I think 9 for me, at least.
It's tough. I mean, I know that the fans, the chat don't like us or like me and Lewis for saying this, but I still... You can't tell me that that Kante over the season was better than Reece James and Ben Chilwell. You cannot tell me they was better than them. I just disagree with that. I just don't think he was over the full season.
Chat's going mental at you, bro.
Yeah, they are, but I just don't agree. Like, someone put it well in the chat earlier.
Your chat's going mental.
Hey, I'm all here for good vibes and everything. So if you lot want to raise the rating, it is what it is. But I'm just saying because we're doing it based on the entire season, and the entire season he's been good. I wouldn't say he's been brilliant. I'd say the last 3 months he's been brilliant. But that's just the way I've viewed the entire season, because he had the period where he didn't play under Jovicic. He was massively struggling in December, same way everyone else was. And around October, he looked hella suspect then. That's why it's not really been a consistent season. It's been a brilliant end to the season. As Ballon d'Or contender, we're giving him 8, but that's Ballon d'Or. Ballon d'Or's about the whole year. That's 2020.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point. If you ask me for 2021 rating, I'd give him a 9 or a 9.5. But it's not a 2021 rating. And people say I need to give more value to the Champions League matches. I mean, sure, but do you remember how stressed all of us were on the final day of the season? And we needed Tottenham. Like, how stressed did all of you feel? I know now it doesn't matter. I get that. But we were all stressed. And if Kante played better or wasn't injured as much, we might not have been as stressed. So, and again, I'm not giving him a 6 here, guys. You have to, listen to me. I'm giving him an 8.5, and I just don't think he's been better than Reece James and Ben Chilwell. But I think an 8.5 with what, maybe me... No, I agree on 8.5. Lewis, somewhat as well, 8 to 8.5, and Pice would have said 9. I think that we're not too far of an 8.5 here. Like, guys, don't ruin it too much. Like I said, it's just 0.5 difference to what most of you guys have wanted so far. I get to Palito Super Chat in a second. This is Con, by the way, Con TFC. You guys know him. Chelsea's season was such a success because of the Champions League. It's been a 10 out of 10. So for that, it should be a 9 at least, in my opinion. But you're not wrong with saying that. But I still think, if we judge things like that, like none of our forwards get more than a 2 because all of them have been dreadful in the Champions League. So, we'll see when we get there. Maybe we'll change it at the end. Imagine rating the players with us losing the FA Cup, backing into the top 4 and losing the UCL finals. Kante's impact has allowed all other player ratings. Yeah, but it has also allowed Kante's individual rating. If we lost the Champions League final, Kante wouldn't be getting more than a 7 from me. Obviously, would Kante have been able to play the same and we lose? Difficult to say. So, because he's played so well in the final, that's part of why we won it. I get that 100%. Appreciate the donation. And again, I'm saying 8.5. Like it's not too harsh. And I completely agree with this. Of course, in the final he was a 10. Obviously he was. Everyone knows this. But yeah, let's move on before people start punching me in the face. But I appreciate it. Paulito, for the super chat. Let's get to MK, which looks weird because it looks like I'm talking about MK Dons. No, it's Mateo Kovacic. Weird season. Brilliant at times. Kind of average at other times. And then a weirdly long injury at the end, which again, we're not going to drop in points for. But still weird. I don't know. 7.5, 8 is what I would give him. I know Pice will probably, again, not be happy with me, but Pice, what would you say?
Who is this? Who are we talking about?
Mr. Mateo Kovacic, your favorite player, bro.
Oh, Cover, my boy. I love him, man.
There you go.
He's such a... I love him. I'll try and be unbiased, though. What did you say? 8?
7.5 or 8, I said.
I mean, 8's not a bad rating, I can't lie. I think he's been pretty consistent, especially on the Tuchel in the pivot. There has been times where he's been caught out defensively, but overall, I think he's had a solid season. Yeah.
People are not happy with me. If Kante's 8.5, then Kovacic is 6.
No, that's just an agenda. No, I think
the question is against who, yeah? Against me or Kovacic?
No, I think I would give Kovacic an 8. I think he's been fairly consistent. I just want him to improve off the ball a little bit, but I've got no doubts he can do that. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'll go with an 8.
Yeah, Lewis, what about you?
Didn't start too much under Lampard and was really good coming off the bench. He was an amazing bench option for us at the start of the season.
While you talk there, I'm going to try find out how many, at least Prem games, Kovacic started, because I feel like it's not that much, but just talk.
Yeah, so he was a really good bench option for us to start the season. Jovicic wasn't really at its best in midfield under Lampard either because we played them both a lot deeper and it just didn't really work out as well. I think when we switched to 4-3-3, he looked solid. He looked really good, especially when we first started doing it in the opening games against the Sheffield Uniteds, the Newcastles, the Leeds Uniteds. Under Lampard towards the end, really did start to fall off. I think he was definitely one of the players that fell out with Lampard. And under Tuchel, has looked revitalised. Has been amazing under Thomas Tuchel. And the Jovicic pivot, even in the Atletico Madrid game when he was just him and Kante, looked a bit rusty in the Aston Villa match and has kind of been relegated to the bench with how good Jorginho and Kante have been in recent games. I'd say for last season's player of the season, he might be a bit disappointed with how this season's gone, but I still wouldn't say it's been a bad season for him. So I'd probably go 7.5.
I might be inclined to agree. And I have an interesting stat for you here, boys, which might change my rating for Kante. I know we said it won't, but it might do. Mateo Kovacic has started 21 Premier League games this season. Jorginho, take a guess. How many games, Pice, do you think Jorginho started in the Prem? If Kovacic started 21?
Probably more, wouldn't it be? Would it be more?
It is more?
Oh, I thought it was less.
No, I
it
think
is more.
it's more. 26,
Fair enough.
25,
23. So just 2 more.
23.
And,
Yeah.
and now take a guess how many N'Golo Kante started.
Mm, 18.
24. He started the most Premier League
He
games out of
started the
three.
most.
How
Oh my
mad's
days.
that?
I thought he started way less. I can't lie.
Exactly. It's just, I think all of us just forgot the start of the season on the Frank. So I think
Yeah.
with that, because I honestly did not really clock this, I will lose to the chat and give him a 9. I will admit defeat. For Kovacic, especially now that we gave Kante a 9, I think you might not be happy with us, Pice, but I think I might have to side with Lewis and give him a 7.5. I think maybe an 8. Maybe an 8. Maybe an 8. No, you know what? I think now that we gave Kante a 9, I think an 8 is okay for Lewis, for Kovacic. How do you see that, Lou?
Go for it. Positive vibes. I'm running with it. If you want to add a 0.5 to anybody, do it. Just gonna call it Champions of Europe tax.
No, exactly. Like everybody in the
Oh
chat
my
seems
God.
to be surprised as well at this about Kante. Like I'm very surprised. Although Lewis made a fair point, yeah. Considering he was player of the season last year, but I didn't agree he was. His season was maybe a slight bit disappointing. That is maybe true.
You're nuts, bro.
Nah, I just don't think he was good. Like, he was one of the few contenders for me, but not.
Our most consistent player by far last season.
How can the most consistent player have scored 2 goals?
But that's not his job, though. Oh, I can't get onto this. Next player, bro. Next player. I can't.
Yes,
I can't do
no,
it.
because people even have a go at this for Jorginho. Yes, it is part of Kovacic's job under Lampard. He played an attacking 8 role, bro. Yes, it is.
Yeah, but he's not an attacking 8. Lampard's just stupid.
Yeah, and what? Lampard's just stupid. Fair enough. You can't complain. That's a fair point.
Yeah,
All right, let's get to Jorginho. People will hate me. 8.5. I'm putting him. I'm putting him between Kante and Kovacic. I know people will hate me, and I know people disagree. I think so.
Jorginho, good start to the season. Didn't really play that much when we switched to the 4-3-3. Also feel like, again, one of the players who Lampard didn't really rate like that. He wanted him gone for Billy Gilmore from the season before. Under Thomas Tuchel, ridiculous, and he was the linchpin behind our push to the Champions League final. I'd have to go. What have we done? We did Kante 9, right?
Yeah, and Kova 8.
8.5.
People are going to bring his end to the season into account, but I think he was massively scapegoated in that. I think the only bad game he really had was the Arsenal match. And even then, the goal wasn't his fault. The goal was Zuma's fault. I'd go... I'm trying to think, am I going to go 8.5 or 9? We're not taking game time into account either.
To be fair, now that I
would
think
go
about
9.
it, Jorginho barely
go
played
9.
under Frank, really, didn't he? That's why he has less games than Kante, I suppose. But go on, sorry.
Yeah. When we switched to the 4-3-3, he barely saw the pitch. But I would go 9 for him this season.
Okay. What about you, Pice?
8.5, I think, for me. Just slightly below 9. But to be fair, I mean, everyone's doubted him. I think he has had a brilliant season. Like, it just made me laugh as well. Lampard played Kante as a lone DM when Jorginho is definitely the lone 6 if you're going to play one. Like, sorry, definitely got that right for me. But yeah, I think Jorginho's UCL performances as well were great. So, I mean, you could argue a 9 for positive vibes, but I don't know. I'll let you decide. Maybe a 9. But I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I tried to look for it now, but I saw some stats. He was like pretty much highest in every defensive stat in the Champions League this season, like of all teams, not just Chelsea.
He got the most interceptions in the whole Champions League.
Most interceptions, most successful tackles, I think, most loads of things. Or was it third in tackles? Anyway, super high up. But I personally think a 9 is still too high. Because he's still And I know the problem is that the team is too reliant on him when he plays. But I do still think he had too many really bad games. Like West Brom. Like, I know not Arsenal in terms of the goal mistake, but I still think he was poor overall in that game. As was most of the other players, I will say, but still. And there was just a few too. I just think I can't have barely given Kante a 9. But at the same, maybe I do. You know what? Positive vibes, we say. And the super chat said 9 as well. Big up yourself. I don't know what that currency is. Qatari something, probably. 18 Qatari somethings. So I appreciate it. And give Jorginho a 9 because the super chat said so and helped me decide. So I appreciate that. And everyone that's hating me, hate Adiel 7 Bubby. Not me. It's not my fault. What do I see here? Gotta go at 5. Yes, boys.
Bro, that's a £3.50 donation right there. So let's go for a 9.
There you go. Big ups yourself.
Run with it.
Have you also found out what that currency stands for?
It is Qatari Real. It's called.
Well, there you go. Qatari Real. There we go. Appreciate the donation.
Or Real, something like that.
There you go. I suppose next in line is probably Mason Mount because he's the guy that was kind of in between forward and midfielder because obviously half of the season he was a midfielder and half of the other season he was a forward. So Money Mace, sadly fake Johnny isn't here anymore, but Money Mace, well, I would have initially given him a 9.5, but if Kante is a 9 and Thiago Silva is a 9.5, Mount has to be a 10 alongside Mendy.
Yep, I'd agree with that too. He's been our most consistent player under Frank Lampard, our most consistent player under Thomas Tuchel as well, and has even improved under him. I think his weight of pass, his dribbling, his ball progression, his chance creation, his work rate, his movement off the ball, his pressing, it's all massively important to the way that we play. Player of the season for a reason. It's no agenda. It's no bias. He is just that damn good at this age. It's nothing else other than a 9.5 or a 10.
There you go. I reckon a 10 is fair. Pies, do you agree?
Yeah, I'll go with a 10 just because as well, like on the Lampard, he was the only player that was trying. So as a Chelsea fan, I really appreciate that because a lot of the players really gave up on the Lampard. And I mean, you know, that's what they do really. This squad, you know, when they want a manager out, it's just he'll give up. But Mount, to be fair to him, was still giving it all for Chelsea. So I think a 10 for his work rate. Does need to work on his finishing and decision making a little bit, but that will come with time, I think. But for how consistent he's been, I think, yeah, 10, or if you want to be weird, like 9.75 or something. You know what I mean?
No. 10 is absolutely fair. 10 is absolutely fair. Tice needs to leave at 5. Lewis needs to leave between 5 and 5:15. So I'm going to try to wrap this up so we can actually get through everything that we need to talk about. KH stands for Kai Havertz, not for Kayo. Big up Kayo, though. There you go. Kai Havertz. Tough one. Struggled at the start. I'm mentioning him now because he literally played as an 8 at times this season as well at the start. But also as a winger and also as a 10 and also as this inside forward and a false 9 and a striker and all sorts. So a lot of position he had to get used to. Moving to a new country is, well, I suppose Thiago Silva as well. But Thiago Silva is so experienced that it's a little bit different. Kai Havertz was just turned 21 years of age when he moved. Hey, what am I seeing here? Con, big up yourself. Since the super chat decided the player rating for Jorginho, Pulisic is a 10. I'm not quite sure, bro, whether you can change it by that much. But we'll take it into account, Con, and we'll give at least 0.5, if not a point higher, just for you, bro. I appreciate you a lot. Yeah, Kai obviously picked up a certain C word, you know, which he had to struggle with for a very long time. Not just initially, but to get to full fitness. I think it was February by the time he said, "I'm back to full fitness." Like you know, when Tuchel came in, he used him in the first game, but then for like nearly a month or at least 2 or 3 weeks, didn't use him at all. Was barely in the squad even, and we heard kind of rumors from journalists, although we didn't actually know whether this is true. He was kind of almost given time out because he was struggling mental health wise and physically, so he was struggling a lot. And then towards the end of the season, man turned up with big performances. The Palace game was great. Second leg against Real Madrid was fantastic. So unfortunate that his chip hit against the bar. That would have been our goal of the season, in my opinion, if that goes in. And then obviously the final literally won it the Champions League. So big up Yusuf. I really struggle to rate Kai. I'm going to give him an 8, but I do know that it's maybe unfair compared to Kovacic. What about you, Lewis?
For me, Kai Havertz, it's another one where it's the last 3 months that's been his best. He looked decent in phases when he first joined us, but it's definitely still acclimatized to the Premier League. Then obviously he got hit with the virus, and that really held him back for about the next 3 months. But as soon as Tuchel came in, he started playing him a lot further forward. Lampard had him as an attacking 8, which he can play in the future. And he wasn't bad at in that position either, but you didn't get the best out of him in that position either. He's not at his best as a ball progressor. You want him in the final third receiving the ball there. And Tuchel knowed that. So he played him as a false nine, or he played him on the left. And he got the best out of him in those positions. So the last few months, you've definitely seen glimpses of what Kai Havertz can do, and he saved his best performance for the biggest stage in the Champions League final. But overall for the season, 7.5 for me.
Fair enough. Pice, what about you? And honestly, guys, we need to really be a bit quicker with these. Otherwise, there's no chance we're going to finish this off in the next 15 minutes. So not Kai. Pice, what about you for Kai? You muted, bro.
I want to give him an 8 just because of the Champions League run. Like, not only the final and what he's had to deal with, but also some of the other games as well. Like, he got man of the match in a couple. And I think overall, especially his attacking play has been really, really good. And under Tuchel, I think he's only going to get better. And I think just with the circumstances, like, I know you could give lower because of obviously what he's had to deal with and stuff, but and the average position he was playing under Lampard, but I think an 8's deserved. I think just especially because of the final as well. Yeah,
I agree. Like, it's 2 against 1 against Lewis at 7.5, so an 8 it is. The man won us his Champions League final, dropped an F-bomb on live TV. I'm a big fan. Germany are actually doing their training camp. Yeah, no, exactly. Germany are doing their training camp ahead of the Euros, half an hour from where I live. So once them boys join up, I might see if I can sneak into a training and get a cheeky picture, because I need a picture with the guy that won us the Champions League. So I'm gonna try and make that happen. So let's see. Next up, Hakim Ziyech. Again, in terms of signings, I think the most disappointing. I'm not sure if you guys will agree, but I think the most disappointing, well, I suppose no, actually that's probably still Werner, because Werner cost more money. So I apologize, take that back. Not a most disappointing signing, but still a difficult season for Mr. Hakim Ziyech. When he first finally came back after he picked up that injury in the one friendly we played, those 3 games he was back for, he was unbelievable. Like, man was wizard Ziyech. I was like, without Ziyech, we can't win a game. Because when he got injured again, I was like, okay, we're done for without him, because that's when we started losing. And then he came back and I was like, okay, he's going to solve everything. And he was dreadful. And then he had the odd great game, and the odd great moments, in particular those 2 games against City. But I don't know. I'd probably say like a 7. Lewis, what about you?
For who?
Ziyech.
He had a good run when he first joined, like a brilliant run of, I think, 3 man of the match awards. After that, really frustrating under Tuchel. Like we said, bit of a moments player. 6. Could be tempted to go lower. Can't even lie to you.
Lower?
He ain't had a great season. Part of it's because of sharpness, because of how early Eredivisie finished the season before and the amount of injuries that he's racked up since joining us. But in terms of performance, he ain't really been all that for us this season. I can't lie.
No, I agree, but I think we can't give him as low as Alonso.
Oh, we got Alonso. Okay, 6.5.
No, Alonso is 5.5, hence why I think, do you know what I mean?
Okay, 6.5 for me then.
Fair dues. I think that's fair. 6.5. What did I say? Did I say 7? I said 7, didn't I? Well, anywhere between 6 and 7 for me. Pice, what about you? Help us decide.
6.5. I think scored a few big goals. Was good at the start, but I think overall pretty inconsistent. If he stays next year, which I'm not sure if he's gonna, but if he does stay, then he needs to fix up. Like he needs to be more consistent and he needs to be much sharper. Like preseason's going to be big for him, I think.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Let's see whether he stays. And ladies and gentlemen, maybe you only tuned in later. At the bottom, those are the initials of the player names because I am limited to 200 characters to fit all the names and the ratings in. Hence why I couldn't write their names out. That's why it is the way it is. So I'm sure you'll figure it out. We'll start goalkeepers, defenders, fullbacks, midfielders, forwards. So I'm sure you'll figure it out. And we still have 260 people watching, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Road to 15K, boys. Get subscribed, drop a like, become a member if you fancy that. Link in the description if you're on your phone or join button underneath or desktop. Use the super chat function as well. Of course, if you want to support the channel. And I suppose next up, who should be next up? Pulisic? Hudson-Odoi? Let's go Hudson-Odoi. Actually, I probably should have done Hudson-Odoi before Ziyech, but because he was played as a wing-back at times this season. For him, I will put Joe because otherwise none of us will understand who I'm talking about. What about Joe? Because arguably didn't get anywhere near as much game time as he should have done under Frank. Then got a lot of game time at the start under Tuchel as a wing-back. And then out of nowhere got no game time anymore at all. Which is a bit weird, but at the same time, this is now the third manager that doesn't really play him as much as we think they should. Does he do something wrong in training? Who knows? That's speculation, so I'm not going to hold that against him, if that makes sense, because I just don't know, do I? What I really like about him is that it recently come out, obviously there's been rumors about him going to Dortmund or whatever, and the rumors come out that Tuchel wants him to stay, the club wants him to stay, and he wants to stay and fight for his place. That's what I like to hear from the Callum Hudson-Odoi camp. Fight for your place, because I believe he has the talent to be a starter. Whether he makes use of the talent enough, we'll see, but I think he has the talent, the outright talent. So, I don't know, for when he actually played, I think you could talk about a 7. If we actually only talk about game time, I think 7. And I know, but because we said at the beginning, we don't include not playing. So I think the games he actually played, was he worse than Zuma overall? I would probably put him on a roughly similar level, especially with how impressed I was with how he adapted to playing a completely new position in terms of right wing back. But how do you see it, Pice? 6, 7.5? 6, 7.5, 6, 7, something like that. What are you saying?
I mean, we give Ziyech a 6.5, but like whenever Hudson-Odoi plays over Ziyech, or just whenever Hudson-Odoi plays in general, I just think he's much better than Ziyech. So if I was to give him a lower rating, then I don't know if that would be fair, but maybe I'll give him the same. I don't know. I just hope Tuchel's doing kind of like what Pep did with Foden, like just kind of develop him a little bit and give him slowly more game time gradually, because I really, really like Hudson-Odoi. I think he can be a big player for us. And I think when he does play, he makes an impact. I just think he's suffered a little bit from the form of James and Aspi, especially. And then the front three, Tuchel seems to have like 2 positions nailed on with Werner and Mount, so it's hard for him. But yeah, I mean, I'd say 6.5, I think, but I'm not inclined to, I am inclined to listen to lower just because of the amount of game time he's played. Like, he's not played much, but I think 6.5.
Okay, 6.5. Yeah, for me, like I said, 6.5 or 7 would probably be it for me. But Lewis, what about you, Callum?
Barely played at the start of the season under Lampard, and to be honest, some of his performances justified it because he wasn't good enough. Towards the end of Lampard's reign, though, he was our best attacker by a mile, despite barely even starting. And he translated that form under Tuchel as well, even at right wing back. Barely played since about April-ish, and he's going to be hella frustrated with that. But as a season, say 6.5, maybe 7 if you want to be generous, but it's one or the other.
Well, 2 of you guys said 6.5, so let's go with that. I don't think it's super outrageous, although I think it wouldn't be too harsh putting him higher than Ziyech. What do you think? Because Ziyech got the 6.5, boys.
Ziyech's season has been frustrating as well, though. And there's just been a sprinkle of good performances around there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Hence why Callum a 7, I'm thinking, not lower.
Can go for a 7. I'd say that. Like, you've seen a more consistent run from Hudson-Odoi than we did from Ziyech, so I could go for that.
I think, and it's not his fault he didn't get to start those games, but his form, him and Mount, when we were really struggling under Frank in January, that was a lot of the good things we had was Mount and Callum, nobody else. I know he hasn't really done enough for a 7. I kind of agree with that. I don't know. Maybe a 6.5 is fairer. I know. Yeah. I don't really know on that one. If anyone wants to help me decide with a super chat, do that. Next up, who do we go next? I suppose Christian Pulisic. And let's not forget, obviously, Con's input with the super chat. Christian Pulisic. Not a tough one. In my opinion, disappointing this season. I'd give him a 7. I just throw it out there because, again, we need to be quick. We have like 8-10 minutes to finish this off here. And we still want to get to Tuchel and Lampard as well. So, Lewis, Pulisic?
He would be really frustrated with this season. Didn't really break into the squad until the run-in, if we're being honest. Had a decent run of games in December, but would be very frustrated with that as well because other than the Arsenal game, I don't think he was really... No, Arsenal and Wolves. Other than Arsenal and Wolves, I don't think he was really that amazing.
Porto was very good.
Yeah, Porto as well. That's, again, good performances sprinkled around the place, but...
Yeah.
I'm not sure about his position in the squad. Is he as best as a starter? Is he as best as an impact sub? I'm not sure.
I think a lot of this as well. Like a lot of this, we're going to find out next season. I think as well. It's hard under Tuchel because he's just kind of with players. He's as Lewis said, like with performances sprinkling around. He's almost doing that with players apart from like a certain few. So I think next season we'll get a better idea about the squad.
This cannot physically be true.
Is it?
I don't
Scored
think
against Real Madrid. Scored
2 against Palace.
Probably is true.
In hell, our finishing really is bad.
But I think that's it. And Kai has scored more than that. Because Sky scored 1 against Palace, 2 against Fulham, and 1 in the Champions League final. So that's at least more. And chances are Jorginho has scored more just in penalties in that period.
He said,
I don't know. Regardless of whether it's true. What rating would you give him then, Pice?
7 or 7.5. Probably a 7.
So sorry, what did you finish on, Lewis? Actually, what rating?
7, 7.5. I'd be inclined to agree on that too. I'm not sure where he really fits in this.
Because I would have said 7. We're all kind of on the 7 to 7.5 because of Con Super Chat. Shall we give him an 8 for the Super Chat or 7.5, boys?
Nah, 7.5. Thing is with Pulisic is like he's a baller, but I just think he's been a bit. I don't know. If you ask Pulisic, I think overall, I think he'd be a bit disappointed. Like, I think he would have wanted more goals, more assists. So I think 7.5 if we're being nice.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like Con says here, remember that
7.5 for Con. Go for it.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not sure because for me, 7.5 is an extra 0.5. But you kind of touched on the 7.5 already. So maybe to be extra nice, it needs an 8. But I'm going to give it an 8 with an asterisk. I'm going to give it an 8 with an asterisk. That's all thanks to Con. All thanks to Con. And next is Team of Honor, which is an abbreviation of TW, which in German just means goalkeeper, which is funny in my head. Because he was the goalkeeper for the opponent half the time because he never scored. Now, it's weird. Team of Honor, well, it's joint top goal scorer, I think, in all competitions. Has by far the most assists out of anybody. but at the same time has kind of been absolutely shocking. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of managed to be good and really bad at once. I'm very surprised at some of these ratings here. Timo 8.5, 8, 7 to 8. I would have been more leaning to like a 6, but and that's me being nice for a good end of the season. Like, if you asked me this in January, I would have given him a 3. Or maybe not January, say March.
Werner's hard. Werner's very hard because you can give him like a 6 or something for his misses, but whenever we don't play him, we look awful. And even in the Champions League final, the run literally made the goal. Like,
and then he played in the FA Cup final.
Yeah, but even then, like, I don't like him as a lone striker. I think he's better.
Against low blocks at least. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, like when he's on the left, at least he's kind of like draws players out of position and then leaves the striker like more space. I don't know. Yeah, it's so hard. I mean, I don't know. What do you even give him? Because so many misses, so many poor performances on the ball and terrible passes. But then so many assists, so many big game assists and a few big game goals. And the factor that we look bad without him. So what do you give him? Like an 8, 7.5? I don't know. Because
I think it is around that as well. Because like
if you
on
think
the
about
ball,
the importance without him, it's and his runs, like, no, I don't know. Even I say this, I don't really like Werner, but whenever we don't play him, we look terrible. So it's like, he must be doing something, right? Like, come on, like, it's weird.
It's weird. And we have a super chat here as well, but AV saying Timo Werner deserves at least an 8. He's the most important attacker for us, whether he scores or not. And you're not wrong with that. But someone said earlier, he's not a goal scorer. Stop expecting him to score.
No, but he is a goal scorer.
First of all, he is a goal scorer. But secondly, he missed 22 or 23 big chances in all competitions this season. And big chances, look them up if you want to. If Kepa was our striker, I'd expect Kepa to score 60% of those at least. So I'm not having this, he's not a goal scorer. Yeah, because he's not a goal scorer. That's why I didn't expect him to score the one from a tight angle that he put in the side netting in the final. If we have Lukaku, I expect Lukaku to score that. I expect Haaland to score. I don't expect Werner to score that. But I expect him to score when he stood on the goal line rather than kicking it out and playing goalkeeper for the opponent. Like that, there's a difference between saying he's not a goal scorer and missing some of the chances he's missed. But you're still right. He's been fantastic overall in a weird way. We gave Kai an 8, but that's because of the Champions League. I would say 7.5. But the super chat maybe has to lean us to an 8.
Yeah, I'd run with the super chat. It'd be either or, so I can go with that anyway.
It was a great save from Werner. Let's be real. You're not wrong. There's another super chat. Whoever said that is clueless. We forgot how many good strikers we have had in 20 years. 2 Drogba and Costa. Drogba took 1.5 seasons to play well. I mean, yeah, but Drogba didn't come from a league, especially back then, as highly rated as the Bundesliga, although maybe Werner has changed everybody's opinion of the Bundesliga, because he kind of has. Plus, from a club as good. I know, like, they only scraped Champions League football. Leipzig are the second best team in the Bundesliga. Like, people talk about Dortmund. Dortmund are just hype from 10 years ago. They're not the second best team in the Bundesliga. Leipzig are. And he came and he was, like, it's not the same as Drogba. Plus, the physicality of the Premier League in 2004 was a whole different ballgame to right now. But still, I think with the super chat, I think an 8 is absolutely fair. And I really do appreciate your super chats by AV. I really do appreciate it. Maybe I would personally think an 8 is maybe a tad high, but hey, let's give him the 8. Let's be nice. Because why not? Why the hell not? Who do we mention next? What do I see here? I'll do one more race, and there you go. Pice will do one more race, then he has to head off. If Lewis has to head off as well, I'll just finish it off very quickly at the end. But who's next? Giroud?
Giroud. If we're doing it based on only judging them when they play, Giroud's probably got to be up there on the 7.5 to 8 too, because majority of the time he played, he got a goal. There was the Leeds United match. There was Wolves. There was what other games he saw under Lampard? You got Sevilla, the 4 goals. Atletico Madrid, Newcastle under Tuchel. Didn't really play as much under Tuchel compared to Lampard. He was played sparingly by both managers. But whenever he did play, he usually scored or had some sort of impact going forward. So I'd go 7.5.
Okay. Pice, what about you? And Reece James is in the England squad. Presumably, both Ben Chilwell and Mason Mount are as well. I wonder which right back was left out, because obviously it was said today that Trent is in. So I presume that means Trippier is out. I don't know, but we'll see.
Check.
Yeah, you go check. Pice, what about Mr. Giroud?
I don't know with Giroud, man. He's scored quite a few important goals.
How many goals has he scored? Like 4. He scored 4 in one game. How many goals has he scored outside of Sevilla? 2, 3? 1 against Atletico, 1 against Wolves, but we lost anyway. And how many other goals has he scored?
I have to check.
I can't remember another goal from him, though. Maybe he probably scored 1 or 2 others.
He scored 4 in the Premier League this season. 6 in the Champions League. So, I mean, the Champions League, he's been balling. Like,
yeah, it's true. Well, he balled for 1 game and the overhead kick.
Yeah, 4 goals in 1 game, though, is a bit of a madness. Like that.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. That was a superstar game. But that was doing season ratings, not Sevilla ratings.
Yeah. What would you give him?
Oh, yeah, he scored the winner against Rennes, to be fair. That was a big goal.
What would you give him? I'd give him like a 7.
I was
going to go 7.5.
I'd give him a 4.
A 4?
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Right. I would no, but on a serious note, I would give him a 6, because I think outside from Sevilla and maybe Rennes, plus the overhead kick, every time else he played, he was absolutely shocking, if you ask me. I know everybody disagrees, but I firmly believe that. I think he was probably my most disappointing player this season, because he's meant to be great at hold-up play. I swear he had 2 good games of hold-up play all season long. But I know everyone agrees. I know. And we'll get to Temi next essay. But for me, it's 6. But hey, what did you say, Lewis? 7 or 7.5?
7.5.
And you, Pi, 7.5 as well?
Oh, I said 7.
All right. I'll give him a 7 then. Go on then. Being nice.
Just before I go, Tuchel gets an 11 for me, by the way.
An 11? All right. I'll
100%.
take it into consideration. Pice, I appreciate you coming on. Check him out on Twitter. The link is down in the description, as always, of course. And we're just going to rattle it through here, ladies and gentlemen. Lastly, Pice, if you're still here, throw me a rating for Tammy. Just no words, just a number.
5, maybe. 5, 5.5.
He's still second highest Premier League goal scorer, And joint overall still, is he? Have him and Werner both still have 12 overall? Wait, did he finish joint top goal scorer this season? Oh my day, that's so depressing.
Our attack is a joke.
Roll on next season, bro.
For me, Tammy, I'd go 6, I think. Mainly because he is still one of our highest goal scorers. And Werner linked up with him better than he linked up with Olivier Giroud. But he's had barely any game time under Thomas Tuchel. But for the time he has had, he's looked pretty decent. I'll say decent. So I'll say it's 6 and I'd leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy. What did Pice even give us a rating now? I don't even know.
I don't even remember. I can't lie to you.
I think the only reason I don't give him the same rating as Giroud is that Sevilla game. It's the only reason. Because I don't think Tammy has been worse than Giroud. When he's played, I personally believe he's been better. I know, again, I'm one of the only people that thinks this, but I think this. We have a super chat here by Ace Reddy. Cheers for the donation, saying Werner has 2 goals in the Premier League since November and a goal in the Champions League against Madrid. 7/7.5 at best. He's supposed to be the striker. You're not wrong. I don't disagree. I think we gave him too much with an A personally, but the other boys overruled me, so it is what it is. But I suppose we had the other super chats let us overrule, so maybe this super chat needs to let us overrule to a 7.5
Go
too.
for it, man.
Otherwise, we're being unfair to super chats, and we need to appreciate the super chats. But
I'm right.
So, Tammy, for you, 6 or 6.5, bro?
I'll go 6.
Yeah, go on then.
Can't really add too much to it.
I really want to do 6.5, but I think 6 is too high. 7 is too high for Ollie, but I do actually agree on a 6 for Tammy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear that. So you want to lower Giroud to a 6.5 then?
I do, but I also appreciate how important he was in the Champions League. Pi said 5, yeah? All right, then I have to give him a 6. I can't go higher then. Fair play. Unless someone drops a super chat to give Tammy higher, we're going to leave Tammy at a 6. That's all the players done, right? We didn't forget any. Right, so let me put a little thumbnail title block here. Put TT, and then FL for... Well, let's just do TT first. TT, do you agree on the 11? Now let's do Frank Lampard first. Let's finish it on Mr. TT. Frank Lampard, because that's going to be the tough one, bro.
Yeah, for me, Lampard, I say a 5. He did the best that he could, and it ended horribly, but we ended it quickly as well. That could have lasted a lot longer, especially if the Adars had their way with it. So I'd give him a 5, and I'd just leave it there. All due respect, left the team in a better place than the team he joined, but is what it is.
It's weird, isn't it? Because if you asked us on December 5th, we'd say Frank 10. And there was not even 2 months between that and him getting sacked, and we're saying 5.
It's just that month and a half was that bad. We lost 5 games, drew 1. I think we only won. Did we even win a game at that period? Yeah, just the West Ham match, and that was it.
And Fulham.
Oh, yeah. That barely even felt like a win, for goodness
sake.
And
then Morecambe, obviously, and Luton, but yeah.
I'd go for a 5.
I think Lewis said 5 because of the signings, but I'm not sure if he's giving him a plus because of the signings or a minus because of the signings. I would give him a 6, personally. Has Lampard been worse than Kepa? Do you know what I mean?
5.5.
5.5. All right, 5.5.
Yeah, I'll go 5.5. I feel like that's happy. I can't give him a 6. I can't.
If someone asked me for Frank Lampard rating for his entire spell at Chelsea, I'd give him a 7, just to clarify.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that too.
Fair play. Maybe a 7.5 because, Reece and Mason and that. But Mr. TT, the man himself, do we just agree on the 11? Because I'm inclined to do so.
Tuchel. Yeah, drop the 11. You can give him a 12 if you want. He did everything that was asked for him and exceeded all expectations.
Like, the only thing I was disappointed with him was the Arsenal game. I think the FA Cup final we got a bit unlucky, but I think the Arsenal game he bottled it. He checked.
Arsenal game, I think the players let him down. It was so.
But I think he gave them the wrong message. I think he gave them the message this isn't important.
No, but I also think the players haven't taken the run into the end of the season as important.
I agree with you, but he literally said post game he started Kepa in preparation for the FA Cup final. That doesn't sound like we're taking this game seriously. He called it a preparation game. He literally called it a preseason game. Do you know what I mean?
Don't you think West Ham away? Yeah, but don't you think West Ham away was preparation for Real Madrid?
Yeah, but it's Real Madrid, not an FA Cup final against Leicester. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's different.
I'd say the semi-final was more important.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So it makes sense to use preparation for that.
I get your point, but
also it's Aspie. Like Aspie at wingback, he's like that's different to Kepa, if that makes sense.
I get, but I just think the players really let us down in the last few games because we should not have made top 4, and that wouldn't have been on Tuchel. That would have been on the players. So I look at the players more for that than the manager.
No, I agree. 100%. I'm just saying that game, I think he got it very wrong. Obviously, he says himself he didn't do it right for Southampton when he took
absolutely skied that 1-on-1.
Yeah. Like, no, you're right. You're right. I mean, he himself is still annoyed about himself for the Southampton one where he took Callum off again. He doesn't like this about himself either. Maybe the Leeds game wasn't ideal. Con, appreciate you a lot. Appreciate you a lot. Up there, Finchels. Come on. Yeah, let's just leave it at 11. Let's not stretch it too much. I know you need to head off. I appreciate you so much for coming on straight after you woke up, bro. Monster as well. Shout out.
I've been up earlier. Fuck's sake.
No stress, bro. All good. Shout out to Monster as well, who of course was on. Head over to his stream. Say Lauren sent you. Why don't you? Check out Pice, of course. His link is in the description. And like I said in the beginning, we still have nearly 200 people watching. Go check out Lewis's matchday vlog of the Champions League final right now. Obviously, subscribe to him, but the link to the matchday vlog is literally in the description. Click the link, go over there. Tell him that I sent you, even though he's here right now. But put it in the comments, smash the like button, make that video bang because it deserves it. I mean, man didn't even sleep before he went there. Took a little nap on the flight, and then was stuck at the airport for what, 2-3 hours, whatever, on the way home.
I was so tired. I got to the ground, sat down in my seat, and slept through the entire warm up. I'm not even shitting you. Big Champions League final. I woke up just before the opening ceremony. Like, what the fuck?
Do you actually know? Is Sammy back home by now, or is he still in Lisbon?
Yeah, he's back home by now. He got back yesterday, but I think his mates didn't make it through though.
What?
So they're stuck there.
It's a no. It's a big L. But again, like I said, check out the vlog by Lewis. Subscribe to myself if you haven't already. Obviously, road to 15K. Get subscribed. Smash the like button. Appreciate all the super chats today. Appreciate all of you guys in the chat as always. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea. Oh yeah, just quick little info. I will probably we will still do streams, maybe once or twice a week. But other than that, I will start doing a few videos from now on in terms of transfer news and that. So definitely, be ready for that. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't already. Up the Chelsea, still champions of bloody Europe. Thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, and I'll see you next time.